you guys so much for coming out. This is incredibly inspiring for us. I'm reporting back to all the writers in the room. We're going to be fired up for season 5.
This is my first convention too. This week. So the most fun way to do it is get them to ask questions, because at least gets it sort of going if you're good with that.
Sure, absolutely.
They always ask really weird questions. We'll find out. Right,
fire away, the weirder the better.
Right, there you go.
Hi, well, we discovered recently that, I'm sorry if anyone hasn't seen season 4.
Cover your ears.
Anyone not seen season 4? Right, there's an old joke which is this: if you don't want to know the score, don't go down the pub.
Right.
Put your fingers in your ears. Go on.
We discovered that Sterling has a daughter. And I was wondering how that sort of changed your perception of the character and the way you played him at all.
Go on, Chris. How did that change my perception of the character and how I played him? Well, it was fascinating because I was really busy around the time of the episode. I was talking to John, and as one does, and I'm like, so, you know, we've got the time to do it. Its schedule was just like a big pain in the butt and everything else. And John's like, no, you have to do it. I'm like, as well, because you've got a daughter. It doesn't work for anybody else. Which is basically the whole thing. I was like, okay. So he made it happen. You guys all made it happen, and we put it together. And it was the first time I got to work with Frakes, which was brilliant. And I think the girl that they picked, Ada Krell, is perfect as a daughter.
She was fantastic.
She's so good. She has her own series on ABC Family in the States. She's a really good actress. But it added a new. We were talking about this before. It added a new dimension. It's not that you know. Everyone's going like, oh, Nate and Sterling's relationship has been developing. Nothing's actually developing. You're just backfilling all the story as you go along, which is really amazing. You find out the reasons why they don't like each other more than them growing together. In a normal show, you would have to have put them together by now. You know, seriously, it's a credit to the writing. It's a great credit to the writing. There's no temptation to, well, they've been at each other long enough, let's make them really close friends. It's actually, you find out just how close they were.
Right.
It's far more interesting to do it that way.
And from the writing standpoint, I mean, we knew going into the episode that Sterling had a hidden agenda. I mean, that's a given. That's a given for Sterling. But we wanted to do a hidden agenda that was an emotional one, and one that would present Nate with a dilemma. And, you know, a credit to, you know, both our actors who were fantastic. I mean, I think that scene of the two of you in the standoff in the car. I mean, you know, these are two friends. I mean, you guys conveyed that beautifully in that scene, and that's really the thing that I took away from that episode the most, with that one scene.
Well, you and John had always said that he finally bought that we'd had a relationship when we were on the roof. From season.
Right.
Was it first season?
I think it was first
season. First season. So at the end of the first season, he was like, yeah, I buy that you two had a relationship. And then at the beginning of the second season, it's like, you definitely had a relationship. And it's been growing from there. I just think it's a testament to these guys that they're not trying to make it better. It's just like they're just telling you more about why they don't like each other.
Yeah. And you know, the other thing with the daughter is, you know, we're all parents. We have young kids, and I think, you know, we knew going into this that you in particular would dig in on this story.
Absolutely. I thought it was great. I thought it was a really good episode. Yeah. Plus, as Frank said, I got to work with the lesser talented of the Sheppards. Thanks. There's nobody else. That's good. So we'll go home.
Ask another question if you want.
Sure. Nobody else is going to ask.
Before we get into the leverage questions, with so many musicians here, have you been tempted to get the bongos out? Are we going to get you on stage doing some drumming again?
A set of bongos? Bloody drummer. It always reminds me of, what was the band on French and Saunders? Raw Sex.
Oh, yeah.
Since I start thinking about bongo players or conga players, that's what I think of the band. Right? French and Saunders.
I'll take this one now then.
Bongos. Yeah. He really worked on that question, didn't he?
Hi, this question for Mark. TV show you haven't been on yet. There is a second part of this.
You may know more.
That you haven't been on yet.
On Supernatural as Crowley. And Doctor Who as Canton, Delaware.
Everett Delaware III.
On Warehouse 13 as Benedict Falda. On Dollhouse as Tanaka. On NCIS as Young Mr. Payne. And you did one episode of Monk in 2005. Remember who you played?
Yes.
Who was that?
Chris Downey.
That's right.
It's named after him.
A friend of mine is one of the writers, David Breckman, who I've worked with, and he told me years later, I named the character after you. He was like a bastard who hit people with a shovel.
It's a great episode of Monk too. I bury him alive and then die of a heart attack. And he has his psychotic episodes. He's like completely, he's like locked in a coffin, buried somewhere in a graveyard. Great place to bury him.
Okay, so the few shows that are left, is there any you particularly like to be on?
Why would I tell you? God's sakes. You know, look, I'm standing in a convention in Chicago, a Supernatural convention. And they're like, what shows would you really like to be on? And I'm like, oh yeah, well, Torch would be nice. And, and then I said, you know, of course, Doctor Who, and everyone went, yay! And I had a ticket in my pocket to fly to London the next day and go to Cardiff. I was like, you just gotta lie. My job is to lie to you people. We made this deal a long time ago. I took my name off the credits to make season 2 finale work. It would have been terrible if we'd have kept it on, and it's sort of become this thing, right, where, yeah, I guess we've got to lie about what I'm doing. So I can't tell you what city I'm in, I can't tell you what I'm doing. So, oh, he's in Vancouver, must be doing Supernatural. We're at the shows, you know. But I generally lie, and I'm not going to tell you, so sit down. That's of course one of the questions.
Hi, Chris, this is for you. I was wondering, as a writer, has there ever been a show where you have been so disappointed by what the actors or the directors have done with your script that you just don't want to ever see that episode again?
Wow, that's put me on the spot.
No Cosby episodes?
Yeah, maybe I can go back.
Well, King of Queens?
You know, if you want to have total control over what you write, you know, be a novelist. I mean, then you sit in a room and it's exactly the way you want it, and you know, if you don't have an editor that's pushing you around, that's exactly the way it is. When you get involved in TV or movies, it's a collaborative environment, and you always have to leave room for everyone to bring their own interpretation to it. I mean, and I think you know, what you always want when you bring a script to the set is you want to beat what's on the page. I mean, here's the way, you know, I have this in my head, let's make it better. And you want everybody to bring something to it. So, and this is a long way to answer your question. There are episodes that turned out differently than I thought they would when I had them in my head. But I can't think of one where I was so disappointed with the way it came out when I ultimately saw it. I mean, the one that really just came out exactly as close to the way I had it in my head was Van Gogh Job, which we did this year. John Rogers did such a brilliant job directing. That's the one that's kind of the closest one that came out kind of exactly the way that I thought it would. But all the other ones, you know, there's magic that happens on the set. You know, I'll think of one with you, Mark, where we were doing the one where you were kind of the hallucination of Nate.
Right. 12-step job.
The 12-step job. And you had a little glass of scotch that you brought with you. And that was kind of a recurring theme you had, right? It carried over from the...
we swapped, me and Nate swapped the glass. We've now done it 4 times with the same glass.
Yeah.
It's always the same glass.
And there's like just a little thing that happened on the set, wasn't in the script, it was just a little moment of magic, and you always want those things to happen, you want to give room for those.
They're not things that you generally write in.
Right.
The accent. The Preston Sturges quote is a great one. It's like, you got to bring 10% to this. You got to bring more than I put on the page. Otherwise, leave it on the page.
Right.
Because
Exactly.
if you can't make it better than what it is, stop messing with it.
Yeah.
There's a great Neil Simon one as well. They were doing California Suite, and Neil Simon was talking to Maggie Smith and Michael Caine. And he said, after this big load of notes and stuff going on, he turns around to them and goes, "Oh, by the way, you can change anything you want to change. Please help yourself." And they looked at each other as he walked away and turned around and he goes, "But it better be fucking funny." He didn't change a word.
The other question is, over the years, Dean Devlin has produced some stuff that pretty much most of us probably absolutely love. How much influence does he actually have on the show? Is he just a name that guarantees you cash? Or
Do you know how many episodes he's directed?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a massive input, isn't it?
Yeah. No, I mean, look, Dean has set the tone from day one. I think the heart of the show really comes from Dean. Dean has always been the one that's pushed us to make the clients, sympathetic and make sure we feel for the clients and make sure we hate the villain. And he always wants those moments where you like raise your arm and cheer when the bad guy gets what's coming to him. I mean, that's kind of what Dean Devlin is all about, and that's what he's really brought to the show. I can't say enough about it. Every time Independence Day is on TV, no matter what point in it is, I always find myself watching it till the end. And it's that kind of addictive storytelling and basic fundamental storytelling is really what Dean's all about, and that's what he brings. In addition to directing the episodes, as Mark said, that's kind of the ethos he brings to the show.
So it's like very, very intelligent high concept.
Yeah.
High concept's a terrible phrase to use in a lot of ways because people think of it as dumbing things down. But it's about keeping a simplicity to it that makes it work across the board. And that's why a lot of his films are so universal. And it is, as a director, it's incredibly simple as well. It's like, do it, don't do it. It works or it doesn't. I like it or I don't. Right. It's not.
And it's all here. Yeah. I mean, he comes from the heart.
And he loves it. He loves the show. If he didn't love the show, it wouldn't have really happened, really, would it?
No, absolutely not. And I've heard him talk about that when he looks at the show, he thinks, I want to live there. I want to live in the world of this show. And that's all about here. And that's what Dean brings to it.
The great thing about him being the studio, essentially, is that you can walk up to him anywhere on the face of the planet and go, can I do this? And if he says yes, you can.
Right.
I mean, it's that simple. You can get an answer to a problem in a second, which is...
Yeah, we like to joke that we have the only studio that fits in one pair of pants.
Thank you.
It is a unique situation, isn't it, really? Man who puts his money where his mouth is as well. It's a big, big deal.
My friend asked Mark yesterday if he could say a few words in German, and he actually did a whole sentence. So my question is, how much German do you actually know?
How much what? German?
German, no.
Sorry, I have trouble with English at times. I spoke German when I was a kid. My mother's German, but it's not a language one retains a lot when living in Southern California. If I moved to South America and I was chasing certain groups of very old men, that could be useful. But German's not usually most people's first language, let's put it that way.
Thank you.
Welcome. Tschüss.
This question's probably for Chris. It's just, is there any chance that there are cast members from Moon 44 guesting on Leverage?
Ah, Moon 44. I can say yes, there is a cast member from Moon 44 that will be guesting in Leverage.
Okay.
Is that enough for you? I don't want to say who it is, but yes.
Yes?
Yes, Dean, there was a part that came up for part 1 of the season 4 finale, and Dean said, it's got to be this guy. It was not somebody that I immediately thought of for the part, and he's brilliant in it. I mean, just absolutely killed it. And it's a guy that Dean knows from Moon 44. That's all I'll say.
Oh, good teaser. Actually get something out of this guy. It's great. I get to lie about everything. You actually tell the truth. It's brilliant.
Hi, I just have a question for Chris, really.
I'll go home then.
No, it's in terms of the bad guys that you take on. I mean, I know in general, in business, is there any particular bad guys that, come up in the room and you're like, no, I don't really want to focus on them, but, like the likes of the phone hacking scandal and people who are that type of thing, do you have to worry about who you portray as the...
Is the question, is there anyone that we wouldn't take on because it's too sensitive? Or?
Yeah, in your, like, would you portray like an evil TV producer as the bad guy?
Oh, sure. I mean, there's bad guys that we've done that I'm shocked we got away with. We did I don't know if you saw the 3 Days of the Hunter job.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the evil tabloid news reporter in that one bears an uncanny resemblance to a tabloid news reporter who is on a sister network of TNT. And I literally walked around, hunched over the week it was going to air, waiting for the phone to ring, and that skated by. We did an episode last year, season 3, that took on the drug industry, and we made a fake drug company, and there was a fake drug we had on the show, and as I was watching the episode, there was a sponsor that was selling an almost identical drug to the drug that we had on the show, and again, I walked in on Monday, waiting for the phone to ring, never rang. So no, so far there's no shortage of evil rich bastards to go after, and we've not suffered the consequences of any of them.
Good. Just one other quick question. In Sharon's ad, you incorporated Alice's training with the violin. Is there any other things in the pipework that actors have mentioned that they do and that you would pull into their characters?
Bet's juggling. She juggles chainsaws. No one has really come forward since then. There was a lot of work on Alice's part. He's spent many weeks getting ready for that episode, all because season 1 he told me he was taking violin lessons, and I said, I'm going to write an episode where you got to play the violin. So I can't think of anything coming on down the pike. I mean, would anyone be object to Christian singing again?
No! How about my porn career?
Thanks very much.
Hello. This question is for both of you. So, Mark, you have decided on several shows to take off your name off the credits so that we wouldn't be spoiled in the beginning. I thank you very much for that, because that's really, like, in the end, easier. Yeah. Not many actors do that. And is it easy to do it? Is there any problem where production tells it's not possible, you have to be in the credits? And Chris, have you been approached by other actors to do the same, to be kept off the credits so that the show would be more interesting?
What's weird about it is they can't ask me to do it. It's illegal for production to ask an actor to remove his credits. It's we fought hard and long to get certain rights. And you would think, like, okay, I'll just put my credits at the end. Well, there's a huge difference between having your credits at the top of the show, and I call it the front, than there is at the back. So I actually have to ask, technically petition, Screen Actors Guild to have my name removed, which I'm entitled to do. And they've never questioned it, because they know there's always a reason for it. The hardest part is that while production will really appreciate that, I've done with Supernatural, many shows, we did it for the season 2 finale, which worked so well. It would have killed the whole episode.
It would have killed it if you knew it.
There's no point. Dean could never have put me in the last 5 seconds of an episode. So, But the weird thing is the departments that deal with that are not the departments that do the promos. So you have to make absolutely sure that they don't just put your face back in the promo. And next week, and they're Sterling, you know.
We've had that problem where we've said to the network, please, under no circumstances, do not show this shot. And then next week on Leverage, this shot.
So I mean, it takes a village. It always takes a village to make anything happen, and it's such a massive team as you realise. There's never enough time, and there's never enough money. And if you figure it, I'm not the end of the process, I'm the middle of the process. The process starts at Chris's end and ends at Chris's end, which is kind of interesting.
Right.
You create it, you push it forward, and by the time it's given to us, they're already working on something else, and still fixing what we're doing, and trying to think of what the next 3 things are, and...
We've already forgotten what you're doing. What are they doing up there?
If I call you up and go, do I do this here? What show?
Yeah.
It's like, because they're already, there's no time, and you literally are making... because we have overtime, and the way overtime works in American TV, we're literally cramming 9 days of shooting into 7 days on a continuous basis. So it's a logistical impossibility. Then when we finish, you've got all the post-production to do. From every effect, every bit of green screen, all the putting, and things have to be pushed out and put off and moved around, etc. So it's a massive amount of people all working towards one end, which is to make the best possible piece of entertainment they can make. And I think it's the most extraordinary process from start to finish that you can ever be part of.
Thank you.
Hi, I wanted to ask, who comes up with the ideas for all the cons and how do they do it?
Me? No.
We have a room full of writers. We have 9, I think we're all together 9 fantastic writers. We get inspiration from a lot of different places. A lot of times an episode will start with a bad guy. Someone will come in with an article in the paper of some rich guy that did something horrible to someone, and we all say, we want to get that guy. Let's make an episode about him. Some episodes, you know, I mentioned in some smaller groups, the Van Gogh job was inspired by this location. I visited this old roller rink in Portland, Oregon that looked like it was from 1945, and I said, I want to do a flashback episode. And sometimes writers come in and they have interests. We had a writer who started last year named Jen Cow. It was her first job. And she said, she came in and said, I want to do an episode where they steal a potato. And we were like, what? And she said, I'm really into gardening, and I have this idea where they steal a super potato. And we said, you've got a job.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have a passion for it.
Yeah, and we're all about passion. I mean, you know, when writers come in, they, well, I've got 5 ideas. What's the one you're most passionate about? And that tends to be the one that we end up doing. So, you know, ideas come from a lot of different sources.
I also heard that Apollo Robbins choreographed some of the cons and stuff.
Yes, Apollo Robbins. For those of you who don't know, a lot of TV shows incorporate consultants. So, cop shows will have a retired police officer who they can call upon to, you know, ask, would a police officer do this? Medical shows have doctors on their staff.
Sci-fi shows have aliens.
Demons, retired demons.
Oh, what do you know about retired demons? Trying to tell me something? We're a Con1 show, and we were able to find Apollo Robbins, who is a master pickpocket and best
magician.
dipper in the business.
He's absolutely fantastic. If you ever get a chance to see him,
you never want to get a chance to see his work up close, because you will be leaving without what you came with.
He took a pencil, like the most amazing one was one of those automatic pencils. He took the lead out of the pencil, put it on your shoulder, and had the pencil someplace else. It was unbelievable. But anyway, he does, when we're fortunate enough to get him up in Portland, he's kind of like a dance choreographer of pickpocketing, and he will work with that usually, and they will kind of map out like a dance, the pickpocket sequence. So he
said, I remember him saying that she's just a natural.
Yes, he said,
natural.
seriously, she could do this for a living. So.
No, it's amazing. I mean, it's an art. It's a true art form.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is that what
Thank
you're
you.
gonna? You're Caleb, right? So you know.
Yeah.
So you're gonna? Is that what you're gonna move into? The world of theatre?
Five-finger Caleb.
Probably not.
Well, stay on the right side of the law, sir.
Thanks.
Somehow I don't